Hi everyone, I'm Carl Sullivan. I work in the IT department at Bryant, and today I'm just going to be showing you guys some stuff with Apple Classroom and Mosyle Manager, and I'm just going to show you a few random things about these iPads too. The first thing I want to call attention to though is that every device, every student and teacher device on the lock screen have the user's name, school, inventory number, and serial number on it. So let's just go ahead and dig into Apple Classroom. It's this icon right here. I'm going to open it. And for those of you that don't know, Apple Classroom is just a really nice tool that you're able to kind of control student devices and view student devices. So when you first open it, you're going to see your roster. Today I've got Lindsay Holloway. She's a kindergarten teacher at Davis. And we've got one of her student devices here, Whitney Elizabeth Smith. And so since she's an elementary teacher, she has the same students for every one of these courses. Obviously, this is going to be different for our secondary teachers. They already know this. Theirs is going to say their subject over and over and over, and they're not going to be able to tell which one is which. But we've got something really cool in the Mosyle Manager that I'm going to show you guys later that helps you customize these names so that you can change it to like first period, second period, third period, etc. So since this is an elementary kid, these are all the same. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to dig into math just for the demo. And when you launch it, you get to see you get to see your roster, all your kids in your class, and you get to see who's online. I've only got Whitney here today, so we're just going to pick on her. And I'm going to show you, you get a nice little live view of what Whitney's doing or what she's not supposed to be doing. So let's just say I get on here and Whitney is on YouTube and she's not supposed to be on YouTube. Well, what's really cool is that up here, you've got her name and everything. So as a teacher, you could take a screenshot on your device and now you've got documentation of the date and the time and the student's name and where they were and what they weren't supposed to be doing at that time. So I'm going to get out of Whitney's device. Obviously, if I had more students here, you could see all these devices at once. I'm just going to show you that you can kind of zoom in so you'll have a bigger screen of them, or like I did with Whitney, you can click on it and get a nice view of just a single student. You also have the ability to kind of toggle this view. So let me just click these 4 little squares here. When I click that, it gives me this different view where I don't see the screen, but I get to see what app the student has open. So with Whitney here, if I click Safari on her device, it shows Safari. If I click the settings app, it shows settings, etc. So that way you may not be as overwhelmed trying to look at 20, 30 different screens. You can at least get a quick glance of what app they have open when you know they're not supposed to have that app open. But another cool powerful tool here that you've got is that you can force students to open particular apps. So I'm just going to pick on Whitney and I'm going to click this open button. And now I'm going to force Whitney to open Classroom. And when I do that, I'm going to lock her into Classroom. So we'll give it a moment. You see that it toggled this little lock icon here. And it's opening on her device. And now it's got the lock next to Classroom. I'm over here on Whitney's iPad. I'm clicking the home button over and over. I'm banging on the keyboard. I can't get out of this. The only way that Whitney could get out of this is if she were to turn her device completely off and then turn it back on. And if she's doing that, she did that crap on purpose, so you probably got a disciplinary issue rather than a technology issue. So when you're ready for this student to get out and have control again, you can just click the unlock button. Or let's say you had forced all of these students to do that, to open a particular app. Doing that, you would click this stack of papers or boxes or whatever this is. And then that would select all the students, and then you would have selected one app and locked them in. If I wanted to unlock all these students at once, I could just click this unlock button here. That would unlock everyone. It would give everyone their control back. We'll give it a moment. It finished. And now Whitney's able to go back and do whatever she wants. She went back to the home screen. You could also individually lock student iPads. Like, let's say you want to select a few, like Whitney's a problem and Peyton's a problem right now, and you want them off their iPads. You could click those two and click this lock button. And now it's locked their devices. And as you can see, it's got a lock under them. You can't see Whitney's device right now, but I'm looking at it and it has a nice little lock icon. It says this iPad has been locked by Lindsay Holloway. So Whitney can't do anything on her device. She's clicking the home button over and over. Nothing. She's stuck there unless she powers it all the way off and back on. But then as the teacher, you could unlock everyone at once. You could just unlock Whitney if you wanted. Just click on her and click unlock. And that'll do it. You've got some other tools here where let's say Whitney is on Safari or whatever app, even something you told her to go to. If you want everyone to go back to the home screen, you could hide the app that they're in and that sends them back. You've got other things that you could do in here. You could create certain groups. So let's say you want to make a group and let's just say that you have, 2 or 3 kids that are always off task. We'll just be nice and call them your little angels. And that makes another group. And then it asks, who do you want to put in this group? Well, we know Whitney's part of the problem, Peyton's part of the problem, and Noah's part of the problem. And so we can do that and we can hit done. And then here's your group of angels. So you always can just quickly just toggle and go straight to them. And you could have theirs kind of blown up so you could see it a little easier. Another cool little feature in here is, so let's look over here. I'm going to open Safari. It shows you a live preview of the apps that are open. And then if you click the app, it shows you which students are in that app. So if, we had 4 students on Safari and 5 students on Pages, it would show Pages here too and that number of students. And it's just a quick way for you to kind of toggle over there and look at their stuff. You've got another nice little tool in here. There's a mute button. This does mute their iPads at the moment. But they are able to turn the volume right back up. But we have another cool tool. Let's get out of Apple Classroom for a moment and let's go look at that. We've got the Mosyle Manager. Some of you may already be using the Mosyle Manager to come in and download your apps by opening that and clicking Self-Service My Apps. But before that, you've probably been noticing your old rosters here. So let's just dig in. Again, it's going to match what you're seeing in Apple Classroom. And again, since Lindsay is a kindergarten teacher, and she's got the same students in all of these, so let's just dig into math again. So when you first launch this, you're going to see your roster of students here on the right. This says select the absent students. So you need to take attendance in this every day before you start your class. This attendance that you're taking has nothing to do with what's being reported to eSchool. You still need to make sure you do that. What this is for basically letting Mosyle know who's in your classroom and who isn't. Because you get to do some really cool things in here to control student devices. And if the student isn't in your class, let's say they're at home or they're in a pullout and you're making changes in here, that's going to affect them no matter whether they're in your classroom or not. So this will kind of click and make a lot more sense in a moment when we kind of dig into the tools. But we're going to go ahead and mark everyone absent except for Whitney. And then let's look at some of this stuff here in the middle. So I'm just going to come down to these two. I want to point out to you, you can mute all apps, and this will mute them the entirety of your class. And you can enable the Bluetooth. Some of our students discovered last year that in the secondary level, that if they disable their Bluetooth, that you can't see their screen in Apple Classroom. So what's cool is now you've got this tool where you can force on their Bluetooth. It's going to gray it out on their devices, and they're not going to be able to toggle it off. It's going to be stuck on. So you also need to make sure, especially secondary teachers, that you set this duration. So if you have a 60-minute class, that way if you're in second period, by the end of second period, this kind of ends when they go to their next class in third period because they're not going to be in your class anymore. That way, if any of the changes you made in here, they're not still affecting their devices in their next class period. So this is going to click in just a second. I'm going to just start this class. And then we're going to go one by one to these tools here on the left. So right off the bat, you've got a cool thing here where you can allow the camera or block the student's camera. You've also got this cool thing called Study Apps. What Study Apps lets you do is whitelist applications. What I mean by whitelist applications, it means that The applications you select here are the only ones you're allowing on your students' iPads during your class time. So for this 59 minutes that's left, if you say, I only want them to have the calculator and Kahoot, and I don't want them to have Pages, but let's just say I do want them to have Google Classroom. I'm just going to search for it, Google Classroom. Helps if I can spell. There we go. We're going to add that one to the list. So we're just going to allow these 4 applications during class. I'm going to go ahead and toggle this on, and we're going to come back over here and look at Whitney's iPad. And this is a good moment for me to point out that any changes you make here could take a minute or two to take effect, but it happened pretty quickly this time. So as you can see, we've only got the applications that we allowed in here. The exception here is that you can never block out the settings app. And we've got 3 little web clips here. We've got Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. These are not applications. These are web clips. This is a good moment for me to point out that in secondary last year with iPads, we discovered that Google has not put the full features of the web version of Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides into the iPad app for whatever reason. So if you use Safari, which is a desktop browser, that means you're going to see basically the normal Google Docs, Sheets, Slides content that you would as if you were just going on a Chromebook or a MacBook or something. So I'm just going to click one just so you can kind of see. This just loads the web page. I mean, this probably isn't dangerous. You know, you blocked out all those apps except for, and you can't block out these 3, but, you know, it's not that dangerous because it's just Google Docs. So yeah, just kind of wanted to point that out for a second. As you can see, this is like the full regular Google Docs. It's got all the full settings in it, all the full features. So yeah, that's just a quick little thing to show you study apps. I think this is going to help you guys a lot because, you know, if you don't want them in even just their email during your class time, you can just block that out. If you don't want them on Safari at all during your class time, you can block that out. So let's go back and look at the next one. It's called Heads Up. This one is pretty similar to earlier when I showed you how you can lock the student iPads in Apple Classroom. The difference here is that you're able to give a customized message. And again, this is based off of the attendance that you took earlier. With this one, you can't target individual students. This one is kind of all or nothing, but you do get to customize the message. So let's just say, they're being really loud. Be quiet and put up your iPad, turd. So you can apply that heads up. We'll come over here. You probably will temporarily notice the student's apps come back. And again, like I told you earlier, this can take a minute or two for this to take effect. All right, there we go. I'm over here on Whitney's iPad. I'm clicking the home button again over and over and over. I can't get out of it. Banging on the keyboard. Again, the student could turn this off and turn it back on. With this one, it actually would go back to this message. It may not be immediate, but it would go back to this message eventually. So when you're done with that, you don't want that heads up anymore. You just come in here and click remove heads up. The next tool I want to show you guys is called Save Test. It's a really cool tool. It lets you lock students into a particular URL, but you've got to be kind of careful with this one. This one you definitely need to test out in your classrooms before you try to, I would say, use this during instruction, because I don't want you to be frustrated during instruction time if it doesn't work like you thought it would work. I think Mosyle, when they made this, they kind of had it more in mind for kind of static test taking. Like, let's say there's a test, even a standardized test, that's being given on a website. And let's say, well, obviously, if it's a test, you don't want your students opening other tabs and navigating other sites and being off task or cheating or whatever. So here's just a random site I was given. It's not really a test or anything, but it's called storyonline.net. Let's just go ahead and apply the save test. And we'll see Mosyle send the student iPad to the website. And when it sends it there, it's going to take away all the navigation bars. There's no URL bar, there's no forward or back or new tab button or bookmarks. It just locks them into this website. Clicking the home button, the student can't get out of it. I'm scrolling through, you see there's a Facebook link down here. It doesn't go with Twitter, YouTube. Can't get to any of those. So it can only use the buttons that are in the website. So let's say you have a site that requires your students to log in, and let's say it requires them to log into Google or Clever. Well, it's possible that if students have to leave the website you locked them into, they're not going to be able to leave to go sign in and come back here. So that's why you really need to test this one out. Again, I think it was meant for more of like a test-taking thing. Then students are locked into the site and they're just selecting an answer and, going to the next one rather than a big interactive site. Okay, so we're going to come back over here. We're going to disable safe test. Similar to what you can do in Apple Classroom, there's a way to apply an app lock. So let's say we want to lock the kid into, or all the kids into Pages. We'll come back over here. We'll give it a moment, and then we'll see it lock the student into Pages. Clicking the home button, the student can't get out of it, not until you disable the app lock. Let's look at our next tool called Quick Poll. A lot of the teachers in elementary, when I was showing them some of this stuff, they were like, oh, I want to use that for my lunch attendance. So let's just do that as an example. What do you want for lunch? Multiple choice. Do you want pizza? Do you want chicken? Again, this is based off of the attendance we took earlier, so you're going to notice that this quick poll is only going to show Whitney because we marked everyone absent except for Whitney. So now we can go over and look at Whitney's device. Mosyle should be forcing the devices to open this quick poll. Whitney can come in here and select pizza. She's stuck here. She's got to send in her response. Teacher comes over here, refreshes. Okay, we've got one that's selected pizza. I believe the students are stuck in this until you finish the quick poll, even the ones that have completed the poll on their device. Next, we're going to get to the part that secondary teachers are probably going to love the most. So if you click settings here, remember we clicked on math. If this was a teacher, this is math, yada, 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 because they all look the same. This is where the teacher could go ahead and put second period. They can save it. And you can see it changes to second period up here, and it'll change it in Apple Classroom too. Let's go back to Apple Classroom. We'll look at one more cool thing now that we're kind of at the end of this class. Let's get out of Whitney's device and let's finish the class. So when I come in here and click End Class, you get a nice little summary of what apps your students were using, who was using those apps, and how long they were using those apps. So there's two different views. So there's an app usage view and a student view. So let's just click on an app. Let's click on Safari, and this is going to show you which students were in Safari and how long they were in there for it. Or you can do a different view where you've got all your students down here. You could click Whitney, and you can see what everything that Whitney did during that time. And again, you've got more documentation. You can take a screenshot, and then you've got it for later with her name and date and all that stuff, and exactly how long she was in each of these apps that maybe she wasn't supposed to be in. So yeah, that's just a quick little overview of Apple Classroom and Mosyle Manager. If you guys have any questions at all, just make a ticket and we'll help you guys out.